Hi everyone, and welcome to Small Talks with MyWellbeing. My name is Kathryn, and today I'll be talking about trauma and how it impacts our daily lives. To start off, let's define trauma. What is trauma? Often when people think about trauma, they might think about things that we see on the news. Natural disasters, mass shootings, kidnappings, and while trauma does certainly include all of those events, it includes so much more. When defined, trauma can be described as an emotional response to an event, an emotional response that it can include both psychological and physical symptoms. In fact, brain imaging research and studies have shown that after a traumatic event, trauma impacts the chemistry and functioning of our brains. So our minds have become rewired. And so what we often see is that what was previously not a trigger has now been calibrated in our minds to become one. Now you might be thinking, why is this relevant and why are we talking about trauma? And we're talking about this because right now, amidst COVID-19, we are all experiencing collective trauma. And some of you may be experiencing symptoms unaware that what you are experiencing is due to trauma. Some of you, again, may be curious, what does that look like in my day-to-day life? And I'll be going through some responses, but keep in mind that this is only a short list. So to start off, trauma affects how we think. While people may correlate trauma to flashbacks and nightmares, it can also look like having trouble concentrating or maybe even experiencing poor memory. If you are a student and you've been attending school remotely, or if you've even been working from home and have been finding yourself in a fog, trouble, making decisions, unable to think clearly, performing certain tasks with difficulty, or just lacking in focus in general, this might be why. 2, trauma affects how we feel. This can include experiencing intense feelings of fear, anxiety, avoidance, shame, frustration, and guilt. But it can also look like experiencing mood swings and a feeling of loss of energy or pain. 3, trauma affects how we behave. And this includes not participating in behaviors that we may have enjoyed before the pandemic. It may also look like engaging in compulsive behaviors such as overeating. It can also look like self-medicating with substances and or alcohol. We may also find ourselves becoming more vigilant, more hyper-aware of our surroundings and environment. And again, this may contribute to those existing feelings of fear and anxiety. And last but not least, trauma affects our physical health. This can include poor GI function, having trouble sleeping, experiencing headaches more frequently. And if you've been finding yourself feeling exhausted all the time, this in itself may be a trauma response. As I mentioned before, after a traumatic event, our brains become rewired. So when our brain experiences trauma, the mind can also be rewired to experience exhaustion as our new norm, in addition to all the symptoms that I mentioned earlier. Now, trauma is incredibly complex and cannot be summarized in one video. All of this is only a snapshot of what trauma may look like in our day-to-day lives. Coping skills are countless and can include meditation, deep breathing exercising, grounding exercises, mindfulness. That being said, reach out to your support network and professional help if needed. Please keep in mind that this is only a 5-minute talk. I do hope that this small talk was informative and helpful and hopefully creates more room for discussion. Please leave any comments or questions below. You can also connect with me on Instagram @chatwithkat. Hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Thank you.